Hello. My group's overarching question for this project was, do the widespread presence of guns in the US actually make people safer, or does it just contribute to a greater insecurity? And the sub-question that I decided to research in regard to this question was, to what extent does owning a gun provide a false sense of security, and why? The subtopics that I'll be going into in regard to this question are the false sense of security and what that means, the point of view of gun owners, responsible gun ownership, and then the media's false narrative surrounding guns. So, first, this false sense of security. Before we go into this, we want to have a working definition of what it means, and through my research, what I came up with is that a false sense of security means that gun owners are under an impression that because they own a gun, they're safer than others, but in reality, they're not. And my main argument is the fact that owning guns statistically does not make people safer, and it in fact puts people in greater danger. And the reason people feel safer because they own a gun is because owning a gun provides an ease and psychological tension for the owner. So they feel safer mentally, but if you look at the facts, they are not. So this is a quote, and it puts yourself in the shoes of the gun owner and why they may feel the way they do. It reads, owning a gun helps them feel more in control of the world around them and more able to live meaningful, purposeful lives that connect to the people and the communities they care for. So this is kind of putting yourselves in their shoes. It explains why gun owners may feel safer, whatever the reason may be. Usually it's a personal reason, if they have family or children they want to protect. So you can put yourself in their shoes. This, however, is just a counter argument to my research, as it has been proven false. Even if they feel safer and they think because they own a gun they can protect these people they care so deeply about, they actually aren't safer overall, and they're putting these people that they love and care for in danger by owning the gun. So, although this may be how gun owners view themselves, it may or may not be surprising to you that it doesn't align with reality. Now we're going to talk about responsible gun ownership. A quote from the psychology department at the University of Wisconsin-Madison claims that being a responsible gun owner is central to many owners' identities, and it's kind of like how they view themselves, like what they pride themselves on. And in one study, 97% of owners reported that they were, quote, more responsible than the average gun owner, and in addition to that, 23% of themselves rated themselves as being in the top 1% of responsible gun ownership overall. This, of course, is statistically impossible. 23% of people can't fit into the top 1%. It doesn't make sense. So, basically, this proves the point that gun owners' perceptions of themselves can be wildly inaccurate, and this can be harmful when it comes to their usage of guns. In addition to this, the same source discusses how the profile of gun owners impacts not only what they use it for, but the responsibilities they feel in owning the gun. For example, people in rural areas versus urban areas, men versus women, old versus young people, protective owners versus people that may use it for a sport such as hunting. And there's a complex way that race also shapes gun ownership. So all of these variables need to be taken account when discussing gun ownership and who uses the guns typically more responsibly versus irresponsibly. And this transitions into my next point. So now that we've discussed that different gun owners view their roles and responsibilities differently, it is important to recognize that this is only part of the picture, because narratives in today's media especially often distort these perceptions and mislead their viewers into perceiving guns differently from what the actuality is. So, circling back to the idea of a false sense of security, in a report by Allison Jordan and her colleagues at the American Progress, they explore the idea of the false narrative that's being pushed by the media, what the media is saying about guns and making people perceive them as. And the ideal that they claim is that good guys have guns too. That's what the media is saying anyways. And the reality is far from this. The reality for many victims is that their lives were permanently changed and altered by an irresponsible gun owner who used deadly force in a non-threatening situation. And this is important because people may think that, not all people that are using guns are using them in response to a deadly situation, like cops, for example. But In reality, the victims of gun violence don't see it this way. They see whoever had the gun is bad, and they are attacking and using this harmful force in a deadly situation. Whereas people like police officers, that is very far and few between who is using them in a deadly situation. And the results of this false narrative sways the opinion of key voting demographics in the country, causing an increase in American gun ownership, causing more people to buy guns in fear of what is to come. And the implications also increase the gap in the country over the issue between states with stand your ground laws versus stricter states with stricter gun laws, like blue versus red states. So, although it may not seem like it on a large scale, the gun issue is impacting the country greatly because it's even worsening the gap between the two political sides. So, conclusion. My conclusion that I came to is that owning a gun makes people feel safer, but in reality, they are in more danger. And they are in more danger because they don't realize what the implications of the gun ownership they have is. And this is due to not only their misjudged self-perceptions, but also the media's false narrative that it continues to push and continues to increase the widening gap between politics in the country. These are my sources. Thank you.